2.3b is still one-step multiplication, but we've got to move a little bit forward. Yesterday, we looked at the process of one-step multiplication problems. We learned that we use the opposite operation, which is division, to remove the value attached to x. Today, you're going to look at the process of checking our solutions. This will be slightly different than addition and subtraction. So if you think about these two problems that have been worked out, so let's just imagine we did this already. That's the solve portion that you wanted to check it. That what you would do is take the original problem and copy it. Take the 24, plug it in for x, do a real quick check. 4 plus 4 is 8, 2 plus 1 is 3, and that is finished. Just like on a different one, let's say we had this one where you had to add 52 and finish it off. That's solved. The next thing you would do is copy the original, take your answer, plug it in for x, do a real quick check. 9 minus 2 is 7, 7 minus 5 is 2, so we know that it works. So the question is, why didn't we use parentheses to substitute? And we did not use parentheses because that's just a regular x. There's no number attached. There's no negatives attached. Like that negative belongs to the 52, not the x. So there's no negatives, there's no numbers. So it's just a regular number. The major difference today is that we will need to use parentheses because x is actually attached to a number. Just be sure to show discipline and do not try to take a shortcut. Overall, the writing is easy, but you might have to multiply to check the answer in a lot of cases. So if you don't learn how to do the mental math that I'm going to be doing, then you are going to probably have to go off to the side and check just to make sure it's right. So if you were doing 8x equals 104 as we did yesterday, we recognize that this is 8 times x. We recognize we need to divide by 8 because that's what we learned yesterday. That when we do this, x comes down, that 8 goes into 10 one time with 2 left over, and that 8 goes into 24 3 times. So this would be our solve. But when we go to check it, you've got to rewrite the 8x equals 104. This time, though, we're going to put 13 in. And again, because that 8 is directly attached, we have to use parentheses to make sure it shows 8 times 13. Now, mentally, what you can do, and again, this is what you got to work on. 8 times 3 is 24. We would write the 4. We would carry the 2. Let me say that again. 8 times 3 is 24. The 4 is there. We would carry the 2. So put 2 in your memory. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus the 2 makes 10, so we know that it's 104. But again, you can feel free to do that long process if you want. I'm going to be doing mental math more than anything else because, again, that mental math is really just going to make sure you're at least close to where you need to be. And as long as you're not too far off, it means you're probably right. Again, as long as the numbers kind of fall into place, everything is really about where it needs to be. So, looking at the first one, 7x equals 91. You're solving and checking. First off, again, 7x means divide by 7. I'm going to kind of walk through this faster because we did this yesterday. X comes down. 7 goes into 9 one time with 2 left over. 7 goes into 21 3 times. Again, that's the first part that we worked on yesterday. But when we go to check, we've got to make sure that we do the original first. Turn our x into whatever it's supposed to equal, which is 13, using parentheses because it's right next to a number. And here's your mental part. 7 times 3 is 21. There's the 1. Carry the 2. So keep the 2 in your mind or just put a 2 on your fingers. 7 times 1 is 7, plus the 2 on my fingers makes 9, which means I know that it is 91. Everything worked out like it's supposed to. All right. 6x equals 102. Once again, walking through the solving portion pretty quickly. Divide by 6, divide by 6. X comes down. 6 goes into 10 one time. 6 is 4 away from 10. And 6 goes into 42 7 times. Again, you got to know your facts for that. I really can't help with that part of it. But we got to check. So what we're going to do is copy the original. Turn our x into 17. Again, using parentheses because it's right by a 6. And you can do the real quick check. 6 times 7 is 42. There's your 2. Carry the 4. 6 times 1 is 6, plus the 4 we carried is 10, which means that we know we got it right. Number 3, 68 equals 4x. Again, divide by 4, divide by 4. Going over this because this was yesterday's work. 4 goes into 6 once with 2 left over. 4 goes into 28 7 times. The key thing for today, again, is your check portion. To check this, rewrite your original. Turn x into 17, but because it's right by a number, we have to put it in parentheses. And then mentally check. 4 times 7 is 28. There's my 8. Carry the 2. Again, I'm putting 2 on my fingers, on my hand right now. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 2 in my hand is 6, which means it obviously is 68. Number 4, 85 equals 5x. Solving part, divide by 5, divide by 5. 5 goes into 8 once with 3 left over. 5 goes into 35 7 times, a lot of 17s, equals x. For the check, again, we write the original, which is 85 equals 5x. We turn our x into 17. And then we simply say 5 times 7 is 35. There's my 5, carry the 3, which I'm putting on my hand. And then from there, 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3, which makes 8, which means that I have my 85 that I'm looking for. These are the ones you want to kind of do on your own if you're going to do it. So again, if you want to pause the video, go ahead. If not, like I said, I'll just go either way, but just make sure you're doing what you need to do. Solve and check. Again, the solve should not be the challenge. The check is going to be something slightly new, but I don't think that's tough either. Here, divide by your 9. X comes down. 9 goes into 11 one time with 2 left over. 9 goes into 27 3 times on the dot. Now we need to check it, so we rewrite the first line. We turn our x into 13, but because it's attached to 9, we use parentheses. And then 9 times 3 does make 27. There's your 7, carry the 2. 9 times 1 is 9, plus that 2 we carried makes 117. So we know we did it right. Number 6. 56 equals 2x. We're going to divide by 2. 2 goes into 5 twice, not just once, because 2 goes up to 4. 4 is 1 away from 5, and 2 goes into 16 8 times, equaling x. After that, we set up our check by copying the first portion of the problem, turning our x into 28, and again doing a real quick check. 2 times 8 is 16. There's your 6, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 makes 5. There is our answer. Doing this actually shows you how to kind of do long multiplication in your head as well, which again is all skills that you eventually will need, things that definitely help you in tougher situations to kind of keep from having to write a lot, because I think the hardest part in a lot of this stuff is the writing and the extra work that you have to do. So making sure we kind of wrap this up the right way. Word problems, the product of a number and 5 is 160. Set up the problem and find the number. We haven't seen this word product before, but just so you know, product means multiplication. So when you see that, add that to your memory. Product means multiplication. So you're talking about a number, which means a variable. So how do you write the multiplication of a variable like x and 5? Remember, the way you write it is just by putting 5x. Is, of course, means equals 160, and there is our problem. So when you see the word product, it means multiply. So you just take the two numbers, write them as a multiplication, which is 5x equals 160, and then you solve as usual. 5 goes into 16 3 times with 1 left because you're at 15. 5 goes into 10 2 times. There's no need to check it. But again, what we're working on here is expanding you back out, making sure you're okay with words, making sure you're okay with translating, and making sure you remember how to put all this stuff back together, because that's where we're going with all this stuff. The difference of a number and 18 is 71. So this is a review. Remember that difference, if you want the difference between two numbers, you want the difference between, let's say, 10 and 15. That difference is 5. How do you get to 5? Well, you subtract. So difference means subtract. We already know we're doing a number, which is x and 18, so that should be x minus 18. The is 71 means you're going to put equal 71, and then you solve. Once again, if you have minus 18, we will move that with plus 18. And then, of course, 71 and 18 makes 89. So again, the overall processes are easy. You just have to make sure you're keeping up with everything so you can stay in the solid range. Again, I don't think it's hard to pass this quarter unless you're just not trying your best to make sure you learn this stuff. The sum of a number and 27 is 79. Set up the problem, find the number. Sum means add. A number means you're talking about x plus 27. And then is 79 means equals 79. So of course, if this says plus 27, we are going to subtract 27, getting the final answer of 52, and you have your number. Even if you have something where they give you the information, the area of a rectangle is the product of its length and width. Find the width of a rectangle with an area of 72 and a length of 6. the first thing you want to do is translate to make the formula. So it says the area of a rectangle is the product of its length and width. The first word we see is keyword is area. And in algebra, you need a variable to represent it. Well, what will we use to represent area would be something like a capital A, or A in general. So it says the area of a rectangle is, which means I think we just put A and equals, because again, it translates directly into numbers. So area is, product means multiply. So what are we multiplying? It's the product of its length and width. Well, length can be represented with a L, width can be represented with a W. So we're going to put A equals, remember when you multiply, you just push them together, A equals LW. So it looks very abstract right now, but that first sentence is telling us that the area is the product of length and width. Area is product, which means multiply of length and width. The next thing you want to do is substitute what you're given. So the second sentence is going to give us information now. Find the width of a rectangle with area of 72. Well, area of 72 means 72 is the area, which means I can put 72 where A is, which I'll do. And it says length of 6, which means I'm going to put 6 where L is. So that'll turn into 6W. Again, I don't need parentheses because it's still a variable. But this looks just like what we worked with, which means now we're going to divide by 6. 6 goes into 7 once, 1 left over. 6 goes into 12 twice. 12 would be your width. And what you could do is check real fast. 6 times 12 is 70, or 6 times 2 is 72, or sorry, 12, carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6 plus the 1 is 7. But again, that's going to be all you need. Main thing is keeping in mind that you're seeing numerous things to expand your experience. First thing is make sure you know what the meaning of sum is. Remember that sum means add. Make sure you remember what the meaning of difference is, and that difference means subtract. Learn and remember what the meaning of product is, which is multiply. Remember what the opposite of adding is, which is subtract. That the opposite of subtraction is addition, and that the opposite of multiplication is division. Remember when you check which operation requires parentheses. Well, what we just saw today, multiplication does because the variable is attached to a number. You don't really need parentheses when you're just adding, and you don't need parentheses when you're just subtracting. So just kind of keep all that in mind. When solving how much is each problem worth, do not forget every problem is worth 3 points. You get 1 point for showing me what you're moving and how. So plus 5, minus 5, times 5, whatever. You're getting another point for drawing a line all the way across, and you're getting your third point for putting your X and your answer down there. Doesn't matter what side you put your variable on. Yes, remember that if X is on the right, it must stay on the right. If X is on the left, it must stay on the left. But just be sure to remember your homework is the practice sheet. It has to be completed with work if you want credit for it. But outside of that, again, just make sure you're asking questions and doing whatever you have to do to get this stuff done right. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.